Did you know that Amazon has both category and product level restrictions? This can make things really confusing. Which category should you be focusing on? Even more importantly, which category should you avoid? Today we're going to be breaking down all of Amazon's restrictions and how that might impact your next product choice. Stick around to the end as well, where I give you my personal favorite categories and where I like to look and why. I'm going to start off with the official restrictions. So this is actually from Amazon itself. These are the restricted categories. They're also known as gated categories, if you've ever heard that term. And I'm going to give you my personal list of restrictions as well. So these are things not officially mentioned by Amazon, but things I've personally found in my own selling experience and also in chatting with over 500 sellers one-on-one over the years. So on the official side, let's start off with the category level restrictions. These are the umbrella restrictions for all products that are within this category. You're going to need approval in order to sell any product within that category. So here is a list for North America. You can see our product category over here. You can see the conditions those products have to be in order to be sold in that category. And then you can also see whether approval is required or not, and also the selling guidelines, which are clickable here. I will leave links to this below for you as well, but you can see here, I'll quickly scroll through this and you can see which ones are actually required and which ones are not. If a yes is present here, it does require approval. In other words, it's a gated category. So this is our first page over here. And this is a continuation of that page. And here is the list for the UK or Europe. You can see again, product category here, what types of products are in there, the conditions, and if approval is actually required. And again, I'm just going to scroll through this slowly for you so you can check your specific category. You can pause at that point and then have a look at this as well. Again, I will leave links to this for you below. So instant ungating can be achieved by clicking the like button. Just kidding. So to get ungated for these categories, Amazon actually evaluates a couple of different aspects, but most important is sales history. In other words, have you been selling and for how long? So if you're a new seller, that's obviously a problem. But in general, once you actually start selling, this process becomes far easier and you can usually get ungated for multiple categories once you have some good sales history. So how do you actually get ungated? Well, applying is actually quite simple. When you add a product to Amazon, so you go inventory, add a product, you're going to have to choose the category of that product. When you do that, it's often going to pop up with a message which says listing limitations may apply. You're going to be able to click another button which is request approval. When you do that, you follow the process and that's how you actually become ungated for that category or that product. Now sometimes it is super easy. You simply click request approval and instantly become ungated for that category or product. Other times there's a lot more to it. Now there's a lot to go into. So what I'm going to do is link you to this site. You can see this is AMZ Scout. And they are breaking down everything required for different categories. You can see, for example, automotive here. And then it says, to become ungated in this category, you're going to need to have your own website. You need to use compliant images, UPC codes, etc. But this page is going to break down everything that you may require in order to get ungated in your category that you're looking at. So definitely check this out for the more in-depth details. And on to product level restrictions. So these are Amazon's restricted products. Again, these are not like your umbrella category restrictions. These are individual product type restrictions. And here is what I could find on this for North America. Categories and products requiring approval. You can see things like collectible coins. You see the face masks. All of this has been added to the list, of course, after the current situation. And then you can see the rest over here. So if you're looking to sell any of these, you definitely want to look closer at these requirements. Again, I'll leave a link for you below. Additionally, these specifics were also pointed out. You can see hoverboards and personal electronic mobility devices, any laser pointers or laser products, and software. So the first two are probably danger hazards, and then software as well. And this is what I could find for the UK. Again, same heading, but you have holiday selling requirements in toys and games. Then other categories here, you can see even made in Italy is one. You have to kind of prove that it's made in Italy. So if you're selling any of these, you definitely want to check the requirements as well. On holiday selling requirements for toys and games, this is something that you may also find in the US as well during peak season. So that's Q4, and you're going to need to look at some of the requirements. AMZ Scout also breaks this down in detail on their site, so check it out there. But this is something you do want to think about. If you're thinking about selling toys and games in the Christmas season, just make sure you're aware of what you actually need to have done before you list that product. Otherwise, if you don't meet the requirements, your products are only going to be made available for sale in, say, January the following year, which is going to completely mess up your strategy. The UK site also had this specific section, which basically just mentioned a couple more areas, toys and games, as we have already spoken of. And this is approval between November to the end of January. Then consumer electronics, generally open to everyone, but sale of specific products in consumer electronics will need approvals. So as you list that product, you're going to become aware of that. So that's the best way to figure out what specific restrictions are needed. And again, that's also why I recommend always listing your product way earlier than you think is needed. But do check the links below, and this should give you all the official restrictions at both category and product level. And here is my unofficial list of gated categories. First is user-dependent products, and I know I've touched on this a few times, but if the product's performance is largely based on the user and what they do, this can often result in a lot of negative reviews, particularly if the product is hard to use. So that's just something to be aware of. Then number 2 is size-dependent products. This is where you're doing clothes or shoes, etc. And this is going to split up your MOQ. So instead of doing 1,000 units of a standard normal product, you're doing 300 small, 300 medium, 300 large. That of course can make supply as well as reordering more difficult and which one to reorder more of. And just as a side note, you do have to use different GTINs for each of the variations. So it's actually quite an expensive way to sell if you're using GS1 barcodes. Number 3 is cheap electronics. You're going to find a lot of potential products in electronics, but just be careful of cheap electronics. They're pretty common, and that of course is going to result in really bad reviews if the product is not good. So it doesn't mean you cannot do them, it just means to vet the quality and rather go with a higher cost item if it's higher quality and charge more for it. That's much more sustainable than going for the cheap low cost side and low sell price side. Number 4, kind of tying in with the above point, but app dependent products. We've all seen this. The product's great, but the app is terrible, and the app just makes the use of that product really bad. Make sure if you're using apps that those apps are really good, that they work, that you enjoy them. This really comes down to product inspection and how much you're testing these products. Doesn't mean you cannot do them, but just make sure you're getting a ton of samples and you enjoy the process of using those products. Number 5 is watertight, airtight, or inflatable products. Anything like this, of course, is going to need a ton of inspection, because if it leaks air or water, or even worse, maybe it's meant to protect an expensive product the consumer already has, you're putting yourself in a precarious situation if that product fails. So those products, just make sure you've got an amazing manufacturer and a good inspection process. Number 6 is adult and hemp products. The only reason they're on the list here is because they lack advertising capability on other platforms. For example, Facebook will not allow you to advertise this type of product. So that's going to limit your external or off Amazon advertising capabilities. Again, doesn't mean you cannot do it, but overall with these two, just be careful. If your main strategy is going to be external advertising, you're going to have a lot of problems with those types of products. Number 7 is glass or fragile products. And this one again, I'm on the fence with, because I like it because a lot of people will also avoid it for the reasons I'm going to mention. But for new sellers, probably not the best one to go with. Remember, if it's fragile, it could break very easily, and these products have to ship quite a long way until they actually land in the consumer's hands. So your packaging is going to have to be amazing in terms of protecting that type of product. And number 8, this one's a little bit obtuse, but potentially dangerous products. So there are certain products, they look really safe at face value as you research them. Take, for example, these baby corner pillows, or even just supplements, untested supplements. These are things that could really impact people and be potentially very dangerous. And you just want to be very careful of that type of thing. Make sure you're an expert or become an expert at whatever it is you're going to be selling. And number 9, all categories for those who don't click the like button. And on a positive note, my favorite categories. Now, these are putting restrictions aside. I'm just going to give you some of the categories I personally really enjoy scouring and the reasons why I enjoy them. Number 1 is industrial and scientific. No surprises there if you've watched my content for a while. But I like this category because it's searched for far less than your other common categories like pets or home and kitchen. It also benefits from a 12% Amazon referral fee as opposed to the normal 15% referral fee. And this category is full of a diverse range of products, things you have never even thought of. Even more importantly, these are things your competitors have never even thought of. If a seller doesn't even know a product exists, they're probably never going to research it. And so that also represents an opportunity for you. Lower competition in some of the areas in industrial and scientific. Number 2 here is camera and photo. This one benefits from a crazy 8% Amazon referral fee. That's again down from 15, and has some avid buyers. Of course, people are very enthusiastic about cameras, and if they're in that niche, they're willing to pay a lot for accessories because camera equipment itself is very expensive. They're willing to pay a lot for accessory items to that equipment. So it represents a lot of premiumable markets as well. Number 3 is automotive, and again benefiting from a nice 12% Amazon referral fee. The category has a lot of strange and niche automotive products. It has a large supplier base. A lot of suppliers produce products in this area, and that means consistent new developments in this area as well. Of course, it also does very well during gifting seasons, particularly for men. It is gated, but quite easy to get into, and once you are in, that gating also presents a barrier of entry, so lowers your competition. Number 4 here is arts, crafts, and sewing. So this is one of the least common categories. Maybe you didn't even know it existed. It is also a smaller category, but of very creative products in the creative sphere. It lacks brand dominance, which is very cool to see, and it allows for a lot of product creativity on your end and lower competition in a lot of areas. So now that you know all about Amazon's restricted categories and products and even my suggestions, what are your favorite categories? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you do enjoy the info I put out here, please subscribe, turn on notifications. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.